I want to talk to you briefly about Joseph and what I've sensed the Lord saying about this story in Genesis. Joseph was raised up as a man who God was going to use in the midst of famine. He was raised up with this promise that he would see the saving of many souls, and that's there at the end of Genesis. Something happened in Joseph's life where God enabled him to help Pharaoh interpret his dreams in a key moment in history. And because of the interpretation of the dreams, he was then able to come up with a mandate that he was given by the Lord to help Pharaoh to feed the people in the midst of famine. And he said, there's going to be these years of plenty, but then there's going to be these years of famine. And we need to store up the grain to feed the people in the famine. And that will lead to the saving of many souls. I think we're living in days where the Holy Spirit is wanting to give us dreams and visions and words from the Lord that we hear and take seriously, so that we can get the revelation needed from the dreams like Joseph did, to come up with the mandate from heaven in order to feed people in the midst of famine. The reason being that will lead to the salvation of many, many, many people, I believe. I think we're already in the early days of famine. I think people have already been being moved into position for what God has for them in this hour. I'm sure many of you would say, yes, Anne, I've been moved, I've been repositioned, and God has been doing something new in my heart. And I think he's just asking me to alert his people to being willing to shift based on what he's revealing from heaven. So what you're sensing, where you're uncomfortable, where you're asking questions, where you've got, I really think this might happen, or I really think that. I think instead of like us retreating in fear or panicking or worrying or getting anxious and holding on tightly, that God's saying, just surrender, my children, just surrender to me. Yes, you can see the problem. Yes, you can see right in front of you that there's a growing need, but this is also an opportunity for my people. And I want to give you mandates. I want to download to you heavenly mandates to know how to feed the people in this hour. And for some of us, that's physically. For some of us, that's spiritually. Others, it's mentally, emotionally. For some of us, it might be the whole shebang. But I think God is positioning his people for the salvation of many souls. The other thing about this passage that I felt God was showing me was in the middle of the famine, when things get really, really difficult, the brothers, Joseph's brothers, come to Egypt to find grain. And I felt like the Lord was highlighting this piece of the story where actually there's reconciliation that happens between Joseph and his brothers, and the whole family are healed and reconciled. There's forgiveness. They get rid of bitterness. They get rid of a history of pain. You can't help but be sort of deeply moved by seeing William and Harry out together through what Charles is saying about both his sons in this hour, King Charles now. And I think God is in the business in this moment of reconciling families, of healing broken relationships, of actually restoring families in a deep love and freedom with one another. And so don't be surprised if you begin to see an answer to some of those prayers, to some of those petitions that have gone forth from you to the throne room. Oh God, why is my family like this? Why is this so broken? Oh Lord, pour out your love into our family. I feel like God is saying, yes, this is the hour for forgiveness. This is the hour to let that old stuff die, to let it fall to the ground, to just freely forgive and freely love and freely welcome one another. Be reconciled with one another. I mean, that was such a massive deal for Joseph to do in Genesis, such a huge thing. Almost that was harder than facing famine physically in the land. It was harder for him because it involved his heart. It involved humbling himself. But I think God is saying, my children, get ready to rescue, get ready to feed the people. And actually that one of those keys is in forgiving and in being reconciled and in seeing freedom come in our relationships. bless you today.